Actually, what we used to do is go to a place and we play in the Friday night Magic card tournament. We play some Counter Strike
nice.
where you pay $3, for the hour of time and play Counter Strike, and then I would sell Diablo 2 items to the local guys there that played the games, and it was like $5 for what a Stone of Jordan was worth. So I was like an 11-year-old. I was refereeing soccer games, playing Magic cards,
Oh,
and
that's
selling
awesome.
Diablo 2 items. So that's referring back to the original opening question. That's why it left an impression, right? I was able to sell enough Diablo 2 items and win enough Magic the Gathering cards to make myself and buy my own Warhammer army.
Jaman, yeah, Jaman. I hope you like a Jaman too. Welcome, one and all, to JhamanCast. This show is all about having conversations and discussing video games in the most relaxed format possible. This week's interview is with someone who's a new streamer on Twitch. He's streaming the Classic WoW Hardcore Challenge. He goes by ChicknBasket. I had a great time talking to them, and I hope you enjoyed the conversation. Before we get to all that, I want to inform you of a few ways you can elevate your show experience. I conduct these interviews live on my Twitch channel, so if you're interested in talking with me and my guests live, you can do it there, live. It's twitch.tv/Jaman. Also, you can follow me on Twitter at JhamanTheShaman. With all that out of the way, let's get this podcast started. Welcome, everyone, to another JhamanCast interview. I'm joined today by a man who's another streamer. He's kind of new to the game. I hope that's okay to say. His name is ChicknBasket. How you doing, man? What's going on?
Hey, Jaman, thanks for having me. Certainly fair to say that I'm a new streamer, but
Okay.
it's great to be invited to, kind of tell you a little bit about myself and hopefully, give some people some context on why we're playing games.
Yeah, thanks for joining me. I always enjoy doing these. It's fun to just meet new people. So the first question is always, what's the first game that you ever played that left an impression on you?
The first game that I ever played that left an impression on me.
Yeah, I've had actually people say, chess before. I've had people say, other games, not necessarily video games, but or like card games and stuff. But just the first game that you ever played that left an impression on you. They said like, "Oh, gaming, man, I like this."
Yeah, and I'm going to give you maybe a three-part answer, which is probably cheating. But if I think through it, right, just at first thought, Mario 3 on the NES was probably like the first game I ever played, right? So that's one of the things that jumps to mind. Pokemon, like Pokemon Red and Blue, played those ad nauseum, grew up traveling back and forth to soccer practice and stuff. So those were there. But if I had to pick one very defining game where I realized I was just an intense and, let's say, hardcore gamer, I would have to say Diablo 2.
Diablo 2. Okay. So Diablo 2 is the one that you finally like it clicked that's the game that you were like, okay, this is the first one I'm going full tilt on this game.
I would say that it was the one where I really started to play not only just, with my family or kind of with random people, but it was my first real online game where the trading system was super exciting, where there was a lot of new things. We had a great group of friends. One of my best friends, I met him because in 8th grade, he made some random comment, and I was like, wait, that's something like Deckard Cain would say from Diablo 2. Like, do you play Diablo 2? And then, I was best man at his wedding. We're great friends. We're still there. So I would just say because of the impact, because of how much we played, and I think just the makeup of the game, right? There's so much of the RNG, the randomization, the itemization. And I would say it was pretty cutting edge at its time for a lot of the skills, the talents, which then rolled over into something like a World of Warcraft or any of the main MMOs. So
absolutely, talent trees for sure were definitely, honestly, just ripped basically straight from Diablo 2, right? And then, I think Diablo 3 and later games probably didn't learn enough of a lesson from the itemization and infinite replayability of Diablo 2. Playing Diablo 3 to me, I don't know how you feel about Diablo 3. But it's boring. It's not. It's like I can see where the character's supposed to go. I can see the path to get there. But the character growth is just not. It's not enjoyable to get a new ability every level, and it's just like a rune that's a different version of the same thing I have. Like, oh, here's the cold rune for this attack, and now it slows people. And I'm like, okay, well that's not useful for the current build I'm attempting to go. So. And it never feels like it's fun to experiment and play with different things. It's like here's the build because that's the gear says to use dash attacks, so I'm gonna use that. Like,
So here's one thing that I would say across games, right? And Diablo 3 is guilty of this as well. But you look at Diablo 2, especially in the earlier patches, when I put a skill point into Poison Dagger, or if I put a skill point into Summon Necromancer, I was crafting my entire character, my entire strategy, the way that I approached the game around those points, around those inputs, around that decision making. Now,
Yeah.
sometimes I may find an item out in the world, right? Maybe I find an excellent dagger and decide, even though I'm a summoner, I can use a lot of that ability, but this particular item is really going to carry my character long term. So the items that would randomly drop in the world were important, and you would use them, and they would be staples of your build that you would build around. Now let's fast forward to something like Diablo 3. Diablo 3, you can change your skill sets whenever. The
Right.
piece of gear that drops, all of a sudden, who cares if you played 30 hours as a summoning necro with 6 clicks? All of a sudden, you can be a completely different character, right?
Right.
That almost takes away the permanence of something, right? Even think about WoW Hardcore and the permanence that a lot of people are doing with that. So I think that's one big piece. And also, the items weren't rewarding. You'd have a blue or a green epic, or that would drop and replace an epic or a unique item. So it got almost felt like when TBC came out, right? Making another WoW comparison, that green you got from the first quest is now replacing your Blackwing layer gear. That doesn't feel right. So I think some of that almost game design of focusing on the end game is to improve your character, and it won't happen exclusively at the max level. It happens all the way through, and it's a building process. It's the journey, not the destination. I think that's where games now have diverted. It's no
Yep.
longer the journey, it's really the destination.
Right. Yeah, yeah, for sure. I'm thinking about Destiny, Destiny 2, all these games that it's all about the end game. Actually, like the leveling process is just to teach you how to play. It's not actually to you don't actually view character growth as you level or as you progress through the game, through the story mode or whatever it is. In most games, it seems like the end game is all what the game's designed around, and so that I think. I mean, I've talked about this so much about classic WoW and why it's so good. Is just the fact that your character growth is so felt. I've never had a game where I felt like my character was growing as well as it does in classic, and then I'm not overpowered at the end. I'm not like blowing things up like a god, but I felt like I've grown stronger the entire time with the time I'm putting in.
And I think that's the reward and the payoff, right? It's why you see some of these games that have that, right? You learn, hey, look, I get Frostbolt at level 4, but even at level 60, I'm still using Frostbolt as a main thing. Now, here's the funny thing about a mage in Classic. If you do not have rank 1 Frostbolt on your bars, you are doing it wrong, right? So
Right.
there is still validity to that skill you get at level 4. Show me where that happens in most other games, right?
Yeah, yeah. Frostbolt level 1 is like a stable part of your kit because it's so fast. It's the same slow. It's just
Well,
it's
and let's compare that to retail, right? Let's compare that to retail briefly.
uh-huh.
I haven't played modern retail. I usually level up when the X packs come out, kind of see the content, how do they change the skills around. But I don't really do a lot of the high end rating or anything like that to any great effect. But what I would say is there were times where I would level a character up, and all the skills I would use in the process of leveling, once I would hit that top tier, I would get like 3 or 4 new skills. I would unlock a new talent, and my entire build, my entire rotation, everything would change. And why I loved and really enjoyed what it was from that character, all of a sudden it was a whole different play style and skill set. And to kind of 180 at the last minute there, I don't love that approach.
Right. Yeah, for sure. I think Diablo 3 is very um, guilty of that, of just giving you an item that completely changes everything about everything you're doing, or a new ability at the very end that changes everything you're doing. It's confusing to not utilize the same thing you had. It's fun to be able to change your gameplay style, but I feel like that's what classes are for. I guess
Sure.
maybe specializations and choice. Not you're right. Being able to just click buttons at any point in the game and change your abilities all around seems really, without like an actual punishment for changing, like be it that time or be that power, or be that whatever. The ability to just change your character around at a moment's notice just brings you. It's not fun. It doesn't feel like your choices matter because you're just going to
Well,
choose the best thing at any time.
and it's not a bad thing to choose the best thing at any time. I'm not voting against that, but In something like Classic, you have to pay a substantial amount of gold for how many times you do that. It's almost a penalty system for how often you do it, right? I'm
Right.
not saying you can't reframe how your character works, right? That's not the point I'm trying to drive home here, but it's just the ability to do it on a whimsical notice because, if anything happens, I think that's where you lose some of the who the character is and you lose their journey, right? You lose chapters 6 through 40 and then you're all of a sudden at the end boss and that's where you live. So
Yeah, and then you have the opposite problem with some games. I think Breath of the Wild was an opposite problem where the journey was the entire game, and then you get to the end and the final boss is a joke compared to the rest of the game. I don't know if you've played Breath of the Wild. Have you played that?
I'm not familiar with it, but
Okay.
I feel like I can make comparisons to other games where you have all this build up, almost like Final Fantasy games is what I think of. Back historically, it's super tough to do all this, and then you finally get to the last boss, kill it, and it's like, well, what do I do now? There was only one last boss.
Hey, the game's over. It has a finality to it. Unlike, World of Warcraft never is over. It's the never-ending treadmill of a game that's continually grown into become even a treadmill with 100 different tracks on it now. But
Yeah, it's interesting to see how it's split, how it's gone. I mean, you have Classic, they're going to do TBC. The hardcore community is alive, thriving, and really on an accelerated. I haven't seen with other, modes or play styles before. Shadowlands is doing a bit of a revamp. So you have 5 parallel universes all kind of running in different areas. So it's wild to see that a game that we played, 15 years ago has become not only a staple of, modern culture, but it's it's like the Marvel movies now. There's 50 different characters going in 50 directions that you can kind of choose your adventure for.
yeah, I think one of the most interesting things about retail, in my opinion, and it just brings me back to my uncle. I remember telling me, he's like, we would explain the game to him, and he would tell my father, he would be like, "Do you realize what these Blizzard guys have done? They've created a never-ending game that people continue to pay for over and over and over." And he's like, "It's brilliant. It's brilliant. It's a never-ending game." And like that was back when Classic was a thing, when Burning Crusade was out. That's when he'd be like, they release patches and then the game continues. And like back then, like there was still like I still look at Classic and I still look at Burning Crusade and I think, oh, I can actually finish my character and then I'll make a new character until the next content comes out. There is finality. But then I look at retail and I feel like there's a never ending, like I'm never gonna finish, like to the insane degree they've taken it to an exponential that there is no way I ever finish my character or like feel like my character is completely done. And I think that's the problem people have with like alts and stuff in the new game. And I honestly haven't played retail. I'm very much like you. And then I level a character up. I see that there's content, and then I kind of get bored. And then now that Classic's out, I'm like, oh, I'll just go back to Classic. Let's just play more Classic because I feel a character growth there, and my character power and the satisfaction of playing is just way better.
Well, and I'll say this, right? Everyone has different constraints, and the main constraint everyone is faced with, I don't care what planet, or obviously this planet, but I don't care where you live. It's time, right? And you have a finite amount of time, and everyone has different work schedules, different amounts they can spend playing a game. So I understand if someone loves the design of something like Classic, but just I'd rather play the end rating and want to do something like more like retail, or even not on the WoW spectrum at all. Right? There was a long time where I didn't have the ability to play WoW because I lived out of the country, and whenever I was doing that, I would still try to check up on things, or I would ask my brothers that rated how things were going. So there's still an interest, even if you can't play it. But I would say my most important thing when playing any video game, right? I'm very new to the streaming world. I'm very new to doing any of that. But if I'm not having fun, if I'm not genuinely enjoying that allocated amount of time that I set aside for an enjoyable activity, and it becomes, something like work and farming raid materials, or something like work because I have to be on time at certain stream hour, those things, if you're not playing the games for the right reasons and to have fun, it's time to take a break, in my opinion.
I hear that. Yeah. Makes me reflect right now on everything I'm doing, but yeah, for sure. So we got Renschultz in chat. He's saying that about, and this is a good point, I feel like, that even dungeon gear in retail is so depreciated compared to heirlooms. It's almost a joke to do dungeons. So yeah, in retail you get heirloom gear, right? You get and then you go and you level up and you never replace it. I feel like it's I know when they put them in, they were originally for this design of like, well, they're for your alts, right? They're for your second character, not your first character. Your first character always has this progression. But even now, your first character, I feel like the gear you get from in retail is I don't want to hate on retail too much. I feel like it's so easy to do, and retail has its own merits, and it's always the end game. And so honestly, it's not fair to put classic up against retail and be like, hey, look how much better classic is over here. And then everyone in retail,
oranges, right? It's certainly apples to oranges. So I don't think it's a fair comparison,
which is crazy.
Because of the nature of the games and the similarities. Obviously, over the years, there's going to be comparisons made now. There's going to be comparisons made in the future.
Mm-hmm. It's crazy too to think that like they're both called World of Warcraft. They're both World of Warcraft games, and yet we're saying, oh no, we can't compare them. like it's this thing that they both exist, but we're like, oh, they're two different. They're two completely different things, and if you said that to anybody else, like if I told my uncle, same uncle, if I told him that, he'd be like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm like, well, this one has like an attention to end game rating, and this one's more of an attention to character growth and leveling and the world building. And he's like, what are you talking about? It's World of Warcraft. How could they be that different?
It gets lost in the sauce, man. I get it. And that's how it is with friends of mine, right? Like among my friends, I was always the gamer. I was the one that on Friday night when everyone was going out and doing things and having activities, I was at home doing bail runs. Actually what we used to do is go to a place and we play in the Friday night Magic card tournament. We play some Counter-Strike where you pay $3, for the hour of time and play Counter-Strike. And then I would sell Diablo 2 items to the local guys there that played the games. And it was like $5 for what a Stone of Jordan was worth. So I was like an 11-year-old. I was refereeing soccer games, playing Magic cards, selling Diablo 2 items. So that's referring back to the original opening question. That's why it left an impression, right? I was able to sell enough Diablo 2 items and win enough Magic the Gathering cards to make myself and buy my own Warhammer army. It was quite an accomplishment as an 11-year-old. I was thrilled.
I couldn't even afford a Warhammer army in college. I remember going to college and buying like 3 figures and being like, okay, I think that's enough. I can't afford anymore. Like I bought a 1,000 Suns army or squad, and I was like, all right, there we go. I'm done with this. I can't afford to go any deeper, because if I start going deeper, I'm gonna have to buy like a Defiler. I'm gonna start buying like vehicles and squads, and
you're gonna be $600 into the red. I had a Christmas where my mother bought a used set of like old out of date models, and that was my Christmas present. I ended up later on trading that and doing other things. So Warhammer is another one of my kind of games and things that I really have enjoyed through the years.
The fantasy, or are we talking 40K? Are we talking both?
I have both. Fantasy is really where my heart is. At the end of the day, I'm a wizard and swords kind of guy.
Yeah.
So
did you get a chance to play Age of Reckoning when it was a MMO?
I did play Age of Reckoning. Age of Reckoning was an excellent game.
Yeah.
So I played a Black Guard, a dark Black Guard.
Right.
And of course I played a Shaman.
Right, the Shaman, yeah. I played a squig herder in that game.
Ooh, excellent.
Yeah, I don't think I ever got to max level, but I definitely played that for a while. It was fun to play with friends.
It was a really good game. I think one of the best things about that game specifically was it had excellent collision detection. Yeah. So a Black Guard was a tank in that game, right? And as a Black Guard, I could tell when we were defending a point against other players in like an RBR, like basically world PvP scenario, that they could not get through me. And I spec'd my guy entirely to do basically one attack that was AoE and hit everyone. Didn't do a lot of damage, but I would stand at the front of the door to the keep that they would have to go into, and I would have people just pumping me with heals. And when I say this, it was just total AoE, total range. They couldn't get by me. And people would first just start going down 10%, 10%, 10%. But when 30 people are going down 10%, the healers can't keep up. So then people just start dying like the plague hit. And it was excellent. It was a lot of fun. So I did that, and then I played the Shaman. At heart, that was my vanilla character, was a Shaman. So I try to always play those in any MMO I touch, but I played everything from EQ, EQ2. If you name an MMO, I'd say 70% chance I played it.
Yeah, I played the Age of Reckoning private server that's out there for a little bit a couple months ago. And I played a Shaman again, and it was like, it honestly felt like I was playing retail. I was running around dotting targets and killing hundreds of targets without even trying. There was just literally, it was the starting area, and like I don't know if that was how the game was balanced or not. If I don't remember it, but I remember just running around dotting hundreds of enemies. And of course, the client is completely bonked, and it's not a perfect recreation, but it was fun to revisit. I think the biggest thing that they did wrong for me was the loading screens between zones.
Yes.
Every time I walked into a new zone, I think I was so used to World of Warcraft being so seamless that switching to that was so jarring that I couldn't understand it. I was like, wait, am I entering a raid now? Like, I was literally like, okay, this is a whole different zone, but there's people in my raid now. Like, it was just, my brain couldn't handle it. I got so spoiled with World of Warcraft that not having to load a new zone by walking into a portal was so weird to me.
No, that makes good sense. I'd say two things. That one, they did really, really well. And I wish it was picked up by more games. It was picked up by some. And that would be public quests. They had a public quest system where, think about this. If you're out in the open and you're questing in the world and doing things, let's say in like a WoW style game, you got to go kill 10 boars and you go turn those boars in, and then you got to go kill the 4 greater boars. And then you go kill that in, and then you have to go kill Gore-Tusk, right? Or a guy that's like a named boar or something or other. And, it's a progressive staged quest, but it's just you yourself doing that. What made the public quest so interesting for me was it was something where if you were strong enough to do that entire thing by yourself, you could, but it was like a staged quest where it got progressively harder and it was timed. So it was an excellent way to have really random people running around playing, team up without having to party, without having to talk, but still accomplish a goal, still get some items out of it. You were rewarded based upon how much you contributed. So there was a lot of value there. So I thought the public questing was great. What was your take on public quest, Shaman?
Yeah, no, absolutely. On like looking at I think I looked at World Quests from WoW and I thought they were like an attempt to do the same thing. But when I played that private server a couple months ago and went back to it and revisited the public quest system in Age of Reckoning, it made me realize that the World Quest system is a little bit flawed compared to that. I feel like the public quest system does a really good job of making you group up and see other players that are contributing. And also the competitive aspect of it is a lot of fun. The idea that how much you contribute increases your rewards. Whether or not that might be a toxic thing or not, I guess you would just make it so that the rewards can't be that good. But in a World Quest scenario, it's like, hey, there's a rare mob. He's at 1% health. Let me tag him real quick. Okay, I've done the World Quest now. As opposed to like in Age of Reckoning, you at least, if you're there from the beginning phase and you go through all the phases of the World Quest as it progresses until you get to the final boss, you get a bunch more loot and money or whatever, experience or whatever it is. But the rewards are greater for contributing more. So I think WoW definitely falters when it comes to the World Quest system, and maybe it's just the fact that I've only done those. It's not like I go back and do public quests a second time or anything. So maybe World Quests are meant to be repeatable content. Do every once a week you do that same quest, you'll find it again to go do it again. It's got its own draws, but for sure, I think the best things about Age of Reckoning for me was, like you said, the collision. Games that include collision in them, a lot of times it can be a little bit of it can be a problem for PV if someone's like blocking something. If you're griefing people, people can't play because that's a thing. Like if there's like say like Blackwing Lair, could you imagine attempting to do Blackwing Lair on a server with like there was collision in World of Warcraft and trying to get through those tiny doors on any server with the size of the servers they are, it would be impossiple. Even if you could only hit alliance characters or the opposite faction, if only the opposite faction actually, stopped you from walking around. Imagine if your own faction could stop you from walking around, you would never get through Orgrimmar. There'd be a wall of people constantly attempting to get into the auction house. There'd be tiny little doors. Like every door would have to be massive. So these there's bonuses and negatives, to having the collision. But collision detection, in my opinion, makes for some of the best games in PvP. Heroes of the Storm, another game I've played a lot, has collision detection and body blocking. And body blocking in Heroes is probably one of my favorite things you can do in that game. It's just one of the best things in a Dota style game or a MOBA game. That being able to literally use your body to CC someone, which is something you can do on any character, And it's like just one of these things that it's a skill set that you gain through just playing the game is really
Yes.
rewarding. It's a
I think people that
universal
can use
ability.
basic movement,
Yeah.
like basic movement in any game, right? Whenever there's collision detection, I feel like it's just more important to do that, right? You get
Right.
a better feel. I think Final Fantasy does it as well. Final Fantasy 14, there's some good collision detection in there, and it matters with some of the bosses and some of those things. I haven't done the end game for that. I've leveled through like the story mode a bit, but yeah, no, I would agree 100% that it's hard to mechanically include in a game that's super populated and how does it work. But when it's done properly, I feel like the actual fighting against other players, fighting against other, mobs and raid bosses, you just get a more realistic effect, right? You feel like I actually am an entity in the world. I take up
Right.
space and it matters.
Yeah, you take up space. Exactly. And then the other thing that Age of Reckoning did really well, which I always was like amazed by, was having PvP abilities that did special things in PvP. So I think WoW kind of went this way with PvP talents, and it makes your abilities interact differently in PvP scenarios and stuff. But like the ability to taunt someone as a tank in Age of Reckoning, and actually it does something in PvP, as opposed to like if you use taunt in WoW on a person, it doesn't do anything. In PvP for a Age of Reckoning, it would be like, okay, you do 70% less damage to every target until you attack the tank 3 times or whatever it was exactly. I can't remember the exact numbers on it. And it blew my mind. I was like, that's such a brilliant way to make you have to attack the target that attack the tank, who is built around tanking. Same as you said, you're just standing in a doorway, hitting AoEs, cleaving people for very little damage, but over time it's building up and building up and building up. And like being a meaty wall is like a really big fantasy for a lot of people. Like that's a thing people love to do. Classic WoW is a huge deal with the tanks. Like nobody does this in Classic right now, which I think is actually interesting. I never really thought about it. But back in when Classic was, when Vanilla was a thing, these mitigation tanks would go into battlegrounds and carry flags, and they were impossible to kill. They would just grab a flag. They have the insane. They don't have any damage because right now nobody's gearing for mitigation. Everybody's gearing for threat in retail or in vanilla. So nobody's actually gearing for it. But these tanks would come in with maximum mitigation Naxxramas gear, and they'd be impossible to kill. And that was their favorite thing to do. Was just they got all the gear from Nax, they got all the defense, they got all the stamina, and nobody can kill them. So they just run flags. Of course, now it's like, oh no, you don't run a flag because it's meta for a druid to run a flag. You can't possibly be a. I guess you could be a Naxxramas tank.
Don't go against the meta, man.
Feral druid.
You'll get people yelling at you real quick.
Right? Yeah, their honor per hour will start going down. They're not going to hit their rank brackets at the right time for their exact time they've put in. It's a lot of problems throwing out the meta out the window. People get mad. You're right, absolutely. So what was your favorite? You've played a lot of MMOs. You think Classic WoW is your favorite MMO, or what's your where do you think your favorite MMO you've played so far is in your life?
I think it's got to be Classic WoW, only because here we are. I mean, I played vanilla, right? Like I had a shaman that I leveled through STV, and I think it took me like 3.5 months to level my shaman. I don't know if anyone's ever seen my stream, but I'm very bad at finding the maps and doing everything. Mechanically, I'm not bad at the game, but the actual like questing adventure part is not my forte. So I would say this: it's got to be Classic, because here we are still playing it this much later. I've played, the EQs, I've played the Guild Wars, I've played, any kind of off-brand thing that's come out. Age of Conan way back in the day. I've played Rift. I've played, if there's an MMO that's been there. Obviously, we just been talking about Age of Reckoning. I've dipped my toes in it, if not made it halfway or all the way there. And Classic stands the test of time. What I would say is this: I'm almost mad at Classic for being as good as it is. And here's the reason why. We're still playing it 15 years later. I mean, you have to give it credit because it does that. But the fact that someone hasn't come up with a system and a way to supplant it, I think Final Fantasy is doing good, and they have their own angle, and they have a certain type of player. It's a different art, different imaging, etc. But yeah, I mean, Classic WoW has got to be the one that stood the test of time. But maybe this is a bad thing to say, but I want to see what's next. I'm enjoying what we're doing. I'm loving the hardcore. It's really reinvigorated and re-excited me. But honestly, I kind of left around ZG, right? It became, like I was mentioning earlier, where I was more about organizing raids and I had to log out and I was playing multiple characters that needed buffs. So
Yeah.
it got to be a troublesome thing that I wasn't looking forward to. It was a chore more than a love.
Yeah.
But I think Cargo's always mentions it, right? You always get the itch, right? There always is a time where you say, you know what, I just want to jump in and go kill some boars, right? I think hardcore is an excellent way that has really brought that back for me. But I want to see what's next. I want to see what the next, kind of variant is, right? Like Skyrim, I think was really interesting. I thought that was, an impactful game that had a lot of kind of interesting things that built upon Oblivion and some of its previous games. So for me, I want to see what the next big one is that kind of crushes it, right? That takes some of the systems, that pulls the right things, but is new, right? I'm kind of curious to see what that may be one day.
Yeah, for sure. A game that can challenge I think for me, if I wanted a game to challenge Classic, it would have to have the character growth and progression that we've seen in Classic. And then, I think the end game of Classic is obviously not the shining stone of the game. I think people have this definitely rose-colored glasses on when they look back and say raiding in Classic was oh my god, 40-man raids. It was so great. It was a different time. There was, legendaries and itemization. Maybe itemization is better, or the fact that your character can be done is better. There are definitely better things about Classic WoW raiding, but it's not the actual raiding itself. I don't think the gameplay loop of going in and collecting buffs and getting ready for raid and logging out and not playing your character until raid is ready. And anytime you log in, you're worried about whether or not you're wasting your buffs for hours. I only have an hour left on my Songflower. Can we please pull this boss as quickly as possible so we can get to the next one? Because I don't want to run out of Songflower before the end of the raid. It's
right.
That's not a fun feeling. It doesn't feel good to be rushed in a game. But also then people will say, well, you're doing it to yourself. You're buffing, you're putting world buffs on.
Self-inflicted, yeah.
Yeah, and so you can't complain about it if it's a thing you're doing. You have to, but you'd be dumb not to. You'd be wasting people's time. You'd be wasting your time. And if everybody does it, it takes very little time because you just pay 15 gold to get summoned around the world, and it's like a joke. And it takes 20 minutes to grab all your world buffs if you just whisper whatever warlock happens to be in Dire Maul and happens to be at a Songflower and happens to be in ZG, you're done, and then you get your Orgrimmar buffs and you're done. I think the biggest thing for any game that ever is going to beat World of Warcraft or beat Classic WoW or be the WoW killer, which I don't think there ever will be, is going to have a character progression, and it's going to have to. I think who was it? WildStar. I think WildStar was the one that was dude, this is a hardcore MMO. This is an MMO that really wants to be a full on. We're going for the elite hardcore player that wants to. And I say hardcore, and I don't mean it in the context of permadeath. I just mean a person who's really all in.
Very dedicated, of course.
It was WildStar, I believe, was the game that I never played it, but I've been told by multiple people that WildStar came out at the wrong time, basically. It came out when WoW was at its peak, and it basically just got flattened. It was one of these great games that just never took off because it didn't have. It was made really well, but it just didn't have. It couldn't compete basically at the time. So I'm hoping for a game that can compete, basically that can come out soon. I'm with you though. I'm not here to give Blizzard handy J's all day and just continue pleasuring them with my money forever and ever. I want them to have to earn my money and continue to earn it. They just because they made Classic WoW, just because they continue to make World of Warcraft, doesn't mean that they get to keep my money forever and in perpetuity. Right? I'm not gonna. I want them to have to fight for it. I don't want to fall into it. I would love someone to come challenge them for me to give me another thing to pay for, another thing to buy.
See, here's my take on it. This is Chicken's hot take. I'm sure I'll get flack for this. And
oh yeah, all the internet's going. Twitter's buzzing already. I can see them.
Yeah, I know. Elon's tweeting about it already. I hear.
Yeah.
It. But here's my thing. Right, good games are built around the community. It wasn't that tons and tons of people played that Age of Reckoning Warhammer game, but we were Warhammer diehard fans, and we could finally play as those characters we wanted to be. right? For vanilla, the community was huge. I played Warcraft 3. I played Orcs versus Humans. I played Warcraft 2, right? I
Sure.
wanted to be a troll axe thrower, right? I wanted to do that. There was no troll
Right.
headhunter available, so I went with the shaman. But
Yeah.
I had played through that, and it was a very strong sense of community. Here's my rub, going back to your world buffs and all the rest, right? Vanilla was excellent. I don't remember getting world buffs in vanilla. I was also like 14 or 15, so
Yeah.
I didn't know what I was doing. I was an enhanced shaman trying to raid, and when they told me I had to heal, I switched and made a rogue. So clearly, I wasn't a top high speed player at the time.
Yeah.
But that being said, it was the community, it was the people, it's what everyone was there for. I feel like that's gotten diluted over time with retail, and that's not the topic that I want to even talk about. The topic that I want to talk about is Classic itself was reintroduced, in my opinion, because of private servers, right? Blizzard needed to make sure that while people were still playing this game, it was a viable monetary thing for them to actually have a server, protect their IP. And I think it's smart for them to do that. But here's my thing, the community that came back for Classic was a community of, let's say, 20% vanilla people that give you the buff as you run by, that want to RP and make the trade, that are there to do the dungeon even if you die 10 times.
Yeah.
And then 80% of the people that came and played Classic were the private server players, where it was exclusively about the speed run, where it was exclusively about min-maxing. You had to be an orc warrior. You had to be the dwarf priest. And don't get me wrong, there's absolutely nothing wrong with min-maxing. But, I played on the Skyrim server from launch. I believe you're there now, Jaman.
Yeah, I've been there. I've been there from launch, yeah.
So, okay, you have, okay. So effectively, seeing Onslaught, like we got the second world first or world second Azragos kill. And it was the only time our guild or any guild, I believe, other than Onslaught killed Azragos, right? So it's one of those where I understand wanting to be the best, but when you have to literally, not all aspects of the game have to be accessible for everyone. I love that a rank 14 warrior or a rank 14 anything is such a distinguished honor, right? There was so much sweat equity that went into the gear and the time and everything else. But I'll say this, there was not a time I ran around out in the open world as a mage where I wasn't charged by a warrior that had already pre-fapped and had a priest auto-healing them. And, it was just one of those where the entire community that came back was so high speed. Anyone that hadn't been playing on private servers for 3-4 years, you were behind in a certain degree. You didn't know or didn't remember. You needed a video by your favorite YouTube guy to tell you what to buy for the next patch, right? So it almost took the mystery. It took the sense of what to do. If I wanted to find what abilities I had to scroll through 3 pages of Google best in slot list, right? Like that to me isn't fun. That to me is where it lost its luster. And I was part of that group to an extent, right? I killed Rag week 2. I was super high speed. I was a level 60 mage within like 9 days.
Wow.
So I'm not saying I didn't contribute to that aspect as well, but I think that that's one of the things you're seeing now with the community and how it is. And honestly, it's why I think hardcore is such a godsend, just in terms of kind of a revitalization of the game for me on a personal aspect, because I see that regardless, it doesn't even matter if you're a high speed or you're trying to do this and that, hardcore brings it back to its roots. It brings it back to you having to do the quest, you having to go through all the explorations, making professions meaningful, not just having alchemy and engineering so you can sell something for 5 gold every, 3 days and throw iron grenades. So anyway, that's my hot take on what WoW vanilla versus classic is, and why I think hardcore is having such good reception, because you're bringing that community aspect back to it. And instead of the, did you parse a 99 or did you parse, a 95, get out of my raid kind of mentality.
Yeah. I see the, one thing you said at the very beginning there was that, like, I wanted to be a troll shadow hunter and you couldn't do that. So you became a shaman. And I was thinking, like, holy crap, like, that's true. Like, one of the big problems, everyone keeps asking me about New World, Ashes of Creation. They're like, are you going to play? Are you going to play these new MMOs? And I look at them, I go, oh, those look cool. They probably have good game systems, but I know nothing about that world, and I have learned nothing about it yet. I still haven't seen any art like about those games. I don't know anything about their world. I don't know anything about their characters. They keep telling me about game design systems and how great the game is. And those are important factors, obviously, for a game to be, built around their game systems. But as a Warcraft nerd, the reason I love Warcraft is the reason I played Age of Reckoning, because I understood, I knew what Warhammer Fantasy was, I knew what Warhammer 40K was, and so I was already bought into the world. One of the reasons I haven't beaten Witcher 3 yet, and I could probably go back and play it, is because I never played Witcher 1 or 2, and I never saw a Netflix show. And Witcher 3 came out. Everyone's like, Witcher 3 is incredible. You have to play Witcher 3. So I played it for like, I don't know, 3 hours. And I was like, oh, that was okay. That's a game. Yeah, for sure. There's a guy with magic powers who runs around and does things. And he's like a fighter and he's a badass. He's got that kind of like.
John, I don't want to interrupt, but we have the same story, man. I literally
Yeah.
made fun of my buddy in high school or in college for playing Witcher 1 and Witcher 2. I'm like, what are these, man? There's all these great games out there. Why are you playing this? This is really off the wall, some backroom stuff. Now come fast forward, he was like, dude, Witcher 3, game of the year. What do you mean these are terrible games? These have been awesome. I've been trying to tell you for the last decade. And I was like, all right, I will play Witcher 3. And similar to what you said, I couldn't get into it. I didn't know the story. I didn't have the background. I never read a book on it. There was no, comic that I got to see. There was no, insight. So I think that for something to be let's say the next groundbreaking, the next big mover on the spectrum, I think there's got to be some type of a fan base, a following. But look at how Star Wars has flopped, right? Look at how certain things that you would think have a massive fan base and would be pretty gamer centric haven't done it. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see if it happens and how.
I mean, Star Wars can put out literal garbage and people will still buy it. It's still happening. I mean, people are still spending money on it. So I don't know. I mean, I'm sure they made money on Rise of Skywalker, and they're making money on, they made a Clone Wars show. They're making Mandalorians out. So you get like these diamonds in the rough, I guess, when you put out a bunch of crap and there's like actually something good. Mandalorian was good. They got a new show coming out. I think there's a new animated show coming out called The Bad Batch, which is following like a Star Wars spin-off of a clones that were, not perfectly cloned, so they have their own quirky personalities. There's the Donatello and the Raphael and the Michelangelo. They all have their own quirky, here's the nerdy one, and here's the big beefy one with no brain. He's a muscle man. Like,
yeah, okay. They get their own stereotypes.
Yeah, so they're literal clones that have their different personalities. You're like, oh, wait, well, but they already had that, but now it's to like they're physically different as well. Anyway, so Star Wars, they're gonna keep going. They're gonna keep making stuff. Hopefully, I would love to play another Star Wars MMO. People tell me that Old Republic is good. Go play that. It's still a good game. I haven't really ever explored it. I guess maybe one of those MMOs I never bought into was Star Wars. Not sure why I never bought into that one.
And I had played a couple of them, right? I played the Knights of the Old Republic, and then there was I feel like there was another one maybe before that.
Galaxies.
I played the Lord of the Rings MMOs, right? Like again, if there was a genre and it was something, I'm big into design and I'm very picky about games, but I like to give them all a fair shake, give them a fair try, kind of see how it goes. I think if I have to be critical of what games do now, I also have to be critical of kind of where, and this maybe we're getting too deep, but where society's gone, right? The people that are playing the games are no longer the you and me. They have instant gratification left, right, and center. It's all about, can I be a popular streamer? If I download and play Fortnite enough, I can win a $2 million tournament. So it's almost like if I'm a gaming company and I'm building and designing games, this might hurt to hear, but I don't know that our audience and what we look for and want is where the money is anymore. It used to be. It used to be. I don't know if that's the case anymore with just how things go. So I feel like it's not going to come from a AAA game company that breaks something, right? It's going to be somebody that's maybe off to the side that's like, you know what, we have a passion project. We're going to run with this. And that's what maybe blossoms into something. But I think, if you're traded on the stock market and you're, you have to answer to shareholders, there's $1 at the end of the day.
It's going to have to be, I think it's going to have to be a AA studio. I don't know where the AA or the single A studios are. I've never heard anybody ever say like, oh, I've only heard of AAA and then indie studios. Apparently there's no one in between. But I think a studio like Blizzard, because Blizzard put in an insane amount of money into World of Warcraft, the original, into vanilla. People talk about like how much money it costs to make World of Warcraft, and there was no other MMO that came anywhere close at the time, or even now. I don't know how many MMOs have put in the effort and put in the money and the development time that World of Warcraft got, just for its just for vanilla, just for the original
Yeah,
game.
just for the original one for sure.
And they talk about like, why did they do so well? Well, they just put in a shit ton of money, and like World of Warcraft was both a passion project and a money sink that like was given, here's the funding, here you go. And so it's going to have to be another marriage of that, which is a reason why it hasn't happened again. I think that's probably the biggest reason too, is like you've said, is that it's hard to tell an investor like, hey, this is a really good game. Like, okay, but like, what is it? Where's the back end? Okay, tell me about the
What's my ROI? Where
right?
do I
Yeah,
get
give me. Oh, is it a platform? Is it a platform? Did you say the word platform that we can sell things from? And they're like, yeah, we can sell things from it. And they're like, oh, okay, then we'll make it. Yeah, sure, for sure. As opposed to like, hey, I want to make a good game. Like, this is really fun. And I think that's one reason I don't know if this is true in your life or other people's lives, but board games have started taking back over in my life. And board games have become something that I've enjoyed more and more as I've gotten older. And I never really cared about board games. I mean, I played Monopoly and I played Chutes and Ladders and stuff. And Risk is a good game, I think. But I never really got into, the higher end board games. I never really played Dungeons and Dragons as a kid. I played it a little more as an adult, but I really still have never gotten into it. I've got a game called Kingdom Death that I paid $400 for. I've got a game, a
Kingdom
board
Death.
game.
I'll have to learn about that one at some point.
Kingdom Death. You heard about that one?
I'm not familiar with it.
Yeah, it's an incredibly good game. It's I think the company is called Kingdom Death, and it's Monster Hunter is the name of the game. But it's basically it's their only game they own, so it's called Kingdom Death Monster Hunter, and it's just it's basically Dungeons and Dragons if there was no dungeon master, and like the game itself plays everything. So like you go through a whole storyline, everything's random. It tells you like, okay, turn to this page in the book and find out what happens, and there's this huge novel they basically gave you. It's almost like a choose your own adventure, but it's not, because you roll dice to see what page you turn to, and then then roll dice to find out what happens, and like there's all these really dark elements. Anyway, so it's a board game. It was made by a smaller company, and it's basically all these games, and arcade games too have also, in my opinion, taken over as an enjoyable thing that basically is not a AAA company. And I say this in the way that it's not there's a game called I think it's Bumblebee Games is the name of their company. They make or Bumble Bear Games, excuse me. They make Killer Queen is an arcade game. You can find a cabinet in certain. You have to look it up. You have to look on their website to find out one. But I just randomly happened across it at a barcade in Charlotte a couple of years ago, and it was one of these most incredible experiences of playing games, because it's a 5-on-5 game that you play. They had it as a quarter for each person, so it's $1.25 to start a session on one side, $1.25 for other 5 people to play on another side, and then you take it takes like 30 seconds to 2 minutes to play a session, and it's a PvP scenario. And it's one of these, it's hard to explain, but at the same time, it's basically like, okay, so there is no AAA MMO game being served to me on a plate at my computer on my Steam profile right now, but there are still games out there to play, and it just takes time to find them. And so,
have you?
Yeah,
I was gonna ask. I've been on this game when I'm not streaming, when I'm not, in my WoW fix or trying to, get a game of Warhammer in or something like that. Have you ever heard of a game called Slay the Spire?
I have heard of it. I've never played it though.
So I would highly recommend that you look at it or pick it up, and maybe I'll stream it or something just to give some context on it. But one day, not now, obviously. But it's basically a rogue deck builder. The idea is that you can pick one of like 4 archetypes, and you basically start off with basic attack and block cards. You know exactly what the enemy's intentions are, but the idea is that you can't heal, and as soon as you die, like if you ever run out of full health, it's kind of a one-turn playthrough, right? It's a permadeath type game. It's very fun, but it's very simple, right? Like the graphics aren't anything wild. It didn't look like anything that's, super crazy, but I'm telling you, I literally have put in more hours on that game than I ever thought I would. It's like $15-20 something, but that's what I would think is a company like that comes out and has something that's just different, that's just clever.
Yeah. It's also true. We might not get. It might not be like, hey, could someone make a World of Warcraft game MMO, please? Come on, world. Like, there's money on the table, and like, obviously, what if they just made something that we weren't asking for or expecting, which is something that I think Hideo Kojima does all the time to people, and people are always like, what's happening? And it's one of the most famous cases of subverting expectations. And I don't know if I'm going on a tangent now, but Metal Gear Solid 2. Was a complete like screw you to the fans, but it's a beloved game now. But so Metal Gear Solid comes out.
The first one was the best. One was the best.
Everyone plays it, everyone enjoys it, and then he says Metal Gear Solid 2's a coming, and then you play the opening level of Metal Gear Solid 2. You get to play as Snake in the opening level. And then for the rest of the game, you never play as Snake again. And Snake's like the whole reason you want to play the game. And you have to play as Raiden, who's like a crying baby man who just there's nothing at all like playing Snake. And it's like, wait, what is this game? And then the game just goes off the rails and this weird stuff. I love... That's a game that just subverted expectations, just to subvert expectations, a lot like The Last Jedi did, but The Last Jedi didn't do a good job of it, I guess. There's something that they did different. I guess the game was still good. It was still a good game.
Yeah, I haven't played through The Last Jedi. It's not one that I've...
That's just a show. That's just a movie.
It's a movie with a little bit of blocking is kind of what I've heard.
No. I mean, The Last Jedi, the movie was just a subversion of expectations, is what they did. I'm talking about in culture, making things. Star Wars: The Last Jedi was just literally the whole movie was just like, hey, you thought it was going to go this way, and it didn't, and then therefore that's clever, right? And you're like, oh, okay, well, but what does anything matter if nothing I think is going to happen? Like if nothing you set up in the beginning matters, why did I pay attention in the beginning? So. Metal Gear Solid 2 was still a great game, so I don't know how to have those coexist. Maybe just Last Jedi just wasn't a good movie for that matter. The story is it's a movie, so the story's all that matters. At least in Metal Gear Solid 2, the story didn't go the way I wanted, or the game didn't go exactly the way I wanted, but it was still playing a game and it was still an enjoyable experience.
And I know most people hate all the new Star Wars, and I didn't love them. Right. What I can say is the first set of movies that I got for Christmas when I was like 6 or 7 was the remastered trilogy of Star Wars. So like, I love to watch them.
Yeah.
I think for me, on some of anything new that comes out, right? If somebody tells me it's a great movie or something, this or that, I just know that it's not going to be, and I go from there. Right. I just say, you know what? It's not really that big of a deal. I'll check it out if I see it. I don't get my hopes up. And honestly, that's how I have to go into movies now, or I will pretty much have too high of expectation. I'll give you a perfect example. That's true. The Dark Knight. Everyone's favorite movie, Batman movie of all time, The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
I was traveling for work. I didn't get to see it, so I didn't get it for the first 3 weeks. And all I heard for 3 weeks was that it was the best movie ever. Now, look, these people probably aren't wrong. It probably is one of the best, if not the best. But I went into it expecting a 15 and it was a 12, right? So, I've kind of had to gear myself moving forward that, I didn't expect the Star Wars to be good. I went and saw them because I like lightsabers and, I always wished I had the Millennium Falcon. But I think some of I've had to tamper my expectations, right?
That's true.
The remakes, if that makes sense.
I did that with 300. I went into 300. Everyone was like, greatest movie. You have to see this. Incredible. It is literally going to, change your mind about what movies should be. And I'm like, oh my God, I have to see this movie. I have to go in. I have to see what this made. And then I saw it and I was like, oh, that was pretty good. I don't know. And I saw it a second time and I was like, okay, no, that was really good. That was a good movie. But the first time I saw it, I was like, I didn't get a hand job or anything coming out of that theater. So I don't know why everyone's expecting, I don't know what everyone was telling me about, but this movie just didn't do what I was expecting, I guess.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Let me ask, where are you at right now in the hardcore? I've had a rough week, to put it lightly.
A rough week.
I know we're both playing hardcore.
Yeah, so I haven't even brought. We haven't even. It's funny. I've been talking to you for 50 minutes now, and I haven't mentioned hardcore basically at all. We've kind of put it in passing, but yeah, let's dive into it. For me, I'm level 54 at the moment on my shaman. I literally yesterday hit 54, which is my personal best now on any hardcore character at all. I hit 53 3 months ago. I had a 53 shaman die, and I have not gotten back to this point till now. So I hit 54 yesterday on a shaman, and I just like, I'm having dreams, I'm having nightmares. I am every waking moment thinking about hardcore. And then at the same time, it's funny you're mentioning like all these things about streaming, and you're saying earlier about, play what you enjoy. It shouldn't be a job. And I was thinking like, oh man, I really enjoy this other segment I have in my show. It's called Noobcore, and where we do low level rating, and we're doing like twink rating basically. We're doing the final one this week, and I have to get to level 54 on this hunter. And every moment I spend leveling the hunter, all I can think about is I wish I was leveling my shaman right now so I could just get this stupid hardcore thing done with, so I can say I did it. But I also really, really love Noobcore. But when I'm playing it, it definitely feels like a chore and a job leveling my hunter. But at the same time, the Noobcore experience and the things I'm doing there, I really love, and I can't wait to see that going forward. But anyway, back to hardcore. The shaman is 54. Maybe by the time I post this on Spotify, he'll be dead, but hopefully not. Hopefully I hit 60. That'd be great. But yeah, how are you? I heard you were saying you had a rough week. I know we talked a little bit before the interview. You were saying your mage bit the dust. You had a 20-something mage, 19 mage, 20 mage. What?
Yeah, so I'll give you the full recap because it's been a heartbreaking week. So I'm a horde player at heart, right? I've mentioned I've been a shaman and everything else kind of historically. So I was playing a priest, and I was playing on the horde side, and I'd gotten the guy up to 23 or so. It was my first real priest. I died on 23. Came back. I had a really good group of people that I've gotten to kind of group up with and play several rounds with, and we got my priest up to 32. And I was feeling really strong. We went into SFK, we went into BFD, we took out Wailing Caverns, and I decided I was going to go into Stranglethorn Vale. I completed all the quests in Stranglethorn Vale that were killing the baby tigers, killing the baby panthers, and I thought, you know what? That level 37 Sindal is definitely doable at level 32. Totally doable.
Yeah.
So I try to pull Sindal the tiger and effectively run the wrong way, get knocked out. Now, here's where I get myself in trouble, right? 32 priest goes down. Technically, that's still the record of what we have. Where we pick it up is Graze for Days and myself. We're talking about two-manning a dungeon. Two-manning a dungeon is mage. And I don't honestly think we can do it. I think we're going to fall on our face in the process. But it was kind of a goal. It was one of those, let's set a challenge we don't think is doable and do everything we can to figure out how we can get there, right? So 15 mage. Everything's good. We had leveled up tailoring. We had leveled up enchanting. We had tons of wizard oil. We had our greater magic wand. We switched over to engineering. We got engineering up to level 100. And we're in Stormwind looking for the cooking trainer. And apparently it's much more commonplace on the Alliance than the Horde to bring dragons into major cities. And I just wasn't paying attention, walked outside, and I forget exactly what the guy's name is. I think it's like Teramis the Devourer or something like that. Drops a big flame breath right into the center of the city, and poor chicken is burned to a crisp. So,
oh God, dude, that's awful. Oh my God.
So that felt bad.
Yeah,
that felt bad. The last piece was today, right? So I'm thinking, okay, Gray and I have this run. I'm in a time crunch. I've got to push it now, and so I start to play on a mage, do everything else, level up the professions, do everything. Last night I started AoE grinding, which probably wasn't smart. I mean, I was pulling, 3 packs, 4 packs. I think I got a 5 pack. I think I pulled a 7 pack. I didn't kill all of them, but these are mobs 1 or 2 level below me at level 18. I don't have a big kit. I do know how to play mage.
Yeah.
Today I had just simple orders. All I had to do was get to level 20. I was 18 and some change. I had some quests to turn in.
Simple orders from who? Who's ordering you around?
Well, I mean, I would just say that basically no one's ordering me around, but I like to give myself goals and deadlines.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Your orders. Like orders from yourself. Got it. Okay. Got it.
Orders from myself. If me and Grays are going to make, this thing happen, we have to hold ourselves accountable in parallel. And quite frankly, that's where the orders come from. But long story short, I end up dying in the same spot that he did to those same Murlocs. Now, I'm going to go out and say that I killed the 3 I was trying to kill. I got spawned on top of, and in the process of running away to sheep and bandage, the same poisons tick on me. And even though I had 3 small venom sacs ready to be turned into anti-venom, I hadn't done it yet.
Right.
And the poisons took us out. So right now, I believe we have a level 2 no mage, and it looks like Friday now is the target for trying to 2-mana dead mines.
Damn, dude. 2-man dead mines. I don't know if you guys are gonna be able to do it. Honestly, Van Cleef, I don't know if you could do Van Cleef. Maybe as a mage because you have so much AoE, it's possible. But we did it in Noob Core at level 15. We went in with 10 players, level 15, and Van Cleef almost wiped us because he summons ads constantly. So if you don't just focus Van Cleef down, you basically lose. Like we had to keep to turn attention to his ads. It's really tough. So I'll be really interested to watch that and see how you guys deal with him summoning ads constantly. The rest of the dungeon, maybe I'm not too worried about it, but I don't know if you can slow down Mr. Smite, if he's CCable. Like it just basically comes down to which mobs are slowable or rootable.
Right.
And if they're not, there's going to be a lot of problems. It's going to be tough. But
I don't have all the ins and outs. I'm not going to pretend that I've theory crafted this until it's gone. But
yeah,
pretty sure every mob can get slowed. Like almost sure every mob in there can get slowed. Maybe like a couple things like mechanical stuff might not be able to, or something else. But at the end of the day, I'm pretty sure everything can be slowed. And my goal was, I'm going to kite everything back to the start of the instance. Doesn't matter what it is. We'll kite it. We'll do rotations, etc. Van Cleef is definitely the one that gives me the most pause.
Yeah.
He spawns ads. I didn't know it was in perpetuity. I thought he spawned like 4 of them. I didn't know they like continually came. The one good thing about dead mines right there is there is a reset. There is a reset that you can jump up onto and get away.
Oh, right.
So honestly, I think that we're going to have to just kind of see how it goes, right? I mean, we can try something to the effect of, all right, we're going to AoE, shatter combo, double flame strike, blow everything up, and then it'll just be BC, and we can take them down on a kiting strategy. I think that'll be what probably happens, but it's got to be a well-timed double shatter from both mages.
Right.
Now, the other thing that'll be interesting, and I don't know.
It's like Gray's multi-box.
Yeah, more or less. And as long as we're in communications, right, and knowing, hey, look, you're first Nova, I'm second Nova, etc.
Yeah,
you'll be okay. Now, here's what'll be super interesting. And honestly, I don't love the timing of this, but I think on Gray's podcast that he does, they were talking about what we're doing with the levels and the level requirements for different areas. And I only was able to catch the first 10, 15 minutes of his clip, but my understanding is they're going to go with the updated Phase 5 leveling stone. Now, what that does is that pushes from 24 to 26 on dead mines, I believe. I have to go actually double check it, but I think that happens.
Okay.
If I'm looking at doing this run on VC, if you give me Cone of Cold, if you give 2 mages Cone of Cold in addition to everything they have and those 2 extra talent points, it becomes very doable.
Right.
I was making an assessment that, totally fictitious numbers, but like we have a 40% chance better than if we go in at 24, going in at 26.
Yeah. Also, you're fighting a bunch of gray mobs, I'm assuming. I think they're like 15, 16, right, at the beginning of the instance. So if you're 26, they're probably going to be grays.
I hate that, right?
Yeah.
I feel like what we'll do in there and what we probably need to do if we're going to have to kite stuff later is going to be some fun double shatter AoE practice, right? Because if we can clear and blast through all that,
yeah,
it actually pains me to not go in there and kill stuff where you're getting experience from it. Like killing any gray mob ever, unless you're like re-leveling a profession like skinning or something, it just feels bad in my opinion, and you shouldn't do it. So if you look at my streams, I'm rarely killing green mobs, let alone gray mobs, right? I'm trying to kill stuff equal level or thereabouts.
Yeah.
But
if you look at my stream right now, it's literally what is the lowest mob I can kill right now. It's like I'm so terrified of dying, dude. I just like it's been I'm at 6 days played, almost 7 days played, and I'm like, I just don't. That's too much time to like die to something just because I want to be a big dick guy. I want to show off. I'll kill yellow mob. I'll kill an orange mob. Who cares? I'll kill a red mob. I'll kill an elite. Whatever. I was looking at King Mosh yesterday, and I honestly thought like, hey, what if I just pulled him just for stream, just to giggle? Like, I'll pull him and I'll run away. Like, what if streamed? And I was like in my head, I was like, that is the dumbest thing you could ever do right now. He's pull King Mosh. He's got 60,000 health. He's a level 60
That's a
rare
chicken
elite.
basket move. That is definitely a chicken basket type move.
Like, I'm
I
just
do
playing.
that, right? People laugh at me on stream. They're like, "Stop it, dude! Like, we like watching you. Stop. We don't want to see you go back to re-level a guy."
Yeah.
Come on,
because the early levels are so bad for. I mean, they're not bad for streaming. Like I enjoy them honestly because it makes me. I'm so relaxed when I'm playing them, so I feel like I can interact better with chat. But when at this level I'm at, I honestly feel bad because I know I'm not interacting with chat anywhere near as much as I normally do because I'm like spinning the camera around. I'm sure everyone's getting sick in their chairs trying to look at my screen as I'm spinning it in rapid succession, staring for. Devilsaurs walking around me. Just PTSD from my last shaman dying to a Devilsaur, man. I'm just freaking out.
I'm extra cautious going into Stormwind. I try to look in the skies and see if there's any dragons.
The freaking world dragons, man. All these people just whisper the guy that kited him. Hey, are you kiting anything now? Just see where he is. /who. Just find out who kited him and slash, or find out who likes to kite him and /who where he is. If you see him like anywhere near Stormwind, just be like, okay, never mind, I won't go there.
I mean, at this point, it's kind of self-inflicted though for me, right? Like I'm a baby streamer, as one person likes to joke. I say that I've been a streamer for 3 weeks for 3 weeks now, but if I see like 7 people in my chat, I'm like, all right, we got a full house. We need to make a play. So I need to be maybe more tame in trying to do certain things and trying to go have all kind of wild and crazy fun, because I think that at the end of the day, I really want to accomplish and beat the challenge.
Yeah.
I can pinpoint why I died in each of the things, and they were all, I would say, ego moves, right? There were all things where, if I would have just tempered my ego, we would have been in a better position, but it is what it is. So
yeah,
I'm looking forward to it though. I mean, I want to do this dungeon. Going back to real quickly, we're talking about killing gray mobs and how bad that feels. I would agree it feels bad. Here would be my counterpoint to it. The reason we're doing it is not to get experience. It's not to do the quest. It's not so that we can, only have 2 people and get better items and do it. Like, it's really just, that's the challenge.
Right.
Can we 2-man BC with whatever we can do? Can we pull it off? Now, I feel like if we pull it off, I don't know what we're going to do after. I've even talked to Graves. It's like, dude, are we going to try and 2-man SM as mages? Like, we can try it, but at some point there's going to be a diminishing return to our power level and kind of how that works.
I think you could do Cathedral. Honestly, I think you could do Cathedral. I don't know about Armory, because I don't know if you could handle Herod running at you and smacking you, because you can't kite him, and then once he starts spinning, he's immune to magic, so you don't even get that moment of respite to actually hit him. You have to sit there and just wait for him to be done. But we did it on Noob Core. We did Cathedral, and our tank left while we were there. We had this guy who was tanking for us, and our guy who normally shows up in tanks for us didn't come, so we pugged the tank. So our tank ended up leaving around right before we pulled White Mane and cleared the area. So I kited what's his name? I kited the Mograine. Is it Mograine? No, it's not Mograine. It's
whatever. Mograine and then
and White Mane.
White Mane, yeah.
Okay, so I ended up kiting White Mane while our rogue tanked White Mane. And in Cathedral, you can just keep running up the staircase and jumping off the waterfall down into the lower pond. Right. He'll keep running back and around and forth, and he'll run the whole time. You don't have to slow him or anything. Although as a hunter, I do have aspect of the cheetah, so I can run faster. But I was able to just continue to kite him over and over and jump down. As long as I kept aggro on him, he would just keep following me. So they killed White Mane the second time, and then they came out and killed him off, pulled him off of me. So we were able to actually do it. So we were, and we're doing it, as a raid, and we're doing it 6 levels below them. So we're like I think they're level 38. So we were like level 32 or 31 going in there. Can't remember whatever their levels are. But yeah, so it was that's like you're saying, it's not about getting the XP, because if you're in a raid in this noob court thing we do, if you're in a raid, you get half the XP you normally would. So it's basically being like unrested. It's like negative rested experience while you're in the dungeon, and also you can't do any quests. So it's literally not about doing like getting our character's power level. It's just literally, can we do this? Can we beat this boss 6 levels below it with 10 players? It's a lot of fun.
and maybe just another angle, right, to give some context on why I think it's possible and what I've done. So I mentioned I leveled a mage at Classic. I mentioned that we killed Rag week 2. I mentioned that we what's it called? I was like, I think I was 9 days to 60.
Yeah.
Everyone was doing the spell cleave once it became popular, but that was something that I was kind of I don't want to say I was a pioneer of. I wasn't anything remarkable, but like we were doing it very, very early in the ZF runs and things, to the point where I stopped trying to bring a tank and I would just be a mage tank. I knew the pulls, I had a mount, so I would actually basically make sure everyone got in Discord comms, and we would all stack up, do the right runs. I had a Nova order for everyone. I had who flame strikes win, who cones win, who's got the next slow. And I've got videos recorded of it somewhere, but this was, again, 6 days into Classic WoW launch. We had gone a tank at all, and we're just using 4 mages and a priest to run through stuff. So, I mean, it's not out of my character, out of my wheelhouse to do something absurd like, do a 2-man something with just mages. But I think it needs to be perfect, right? Like a faulty resist, anything like that can really kind of ruin everything.
For sure. And then if the communication, you don't have Cold Snap at that level, right? Cold Snap's a higher level talent, right?
We'll have Cold Snap. I mean, I think you'll get Cold Snap at 21. Okay. So that's not necessarily the barrier to entry.
It's definitely communication, right? Of, hey, it's your Nova, it's my Nova. My Nova got resisted, so I need you to Nova now. I need you to Cold Snap. Like those little things. Like once your Cold Snap up, is it ready? Can we pull this? Is it safe? Like those little moments are going to be. You're right. I think it's possible. It sounds like enjoyable to watch too. So I'm excited to see it.
Yeah. Now we just I think Grays is a level 5 gnome and I'm a level 2 gnome because we are a little bit too YOLO. So
yeah.
But I think you need YOLO players to try this, right? Like you need someone that's going to delete 3 different characters and go level them back up and put all the groundwork into the professions, or because if you don't have that, that's what's going to be that saving grace. Like I mentioned earlier, I had the way to cure poison in my bag. I was just on stream and was being lazy and didn't think people wanted to watch me do more professions. So I didn't turn it into the item that would have saved me. So I need to take a step back and remove a little YOLO from my gameplay. And I think that we'll be able to, at least make the dungeon happen. That's almost where we're at now, is we got to make this happen because we've been talking about it and dying too much.
Gotcha. Awesome, man. Well, hey, it's been we've been talking for an hour and 10 now. I think that's good. I think we'll call it there. I appreciate you joining me. I can't wait to see you and Grays do this. I can't wait to see more of your. I can't wait to see your 4th week of your streaming career. It's gonna be really interesting seeing that. Thanks for coming on, man. I appreciate it. Is there anywhere people can find you? Can you shout out your Twitch? Can you find out any social medias you want to shout out? Anything you want to say? You have the floor.
Yeah. No, I first just want to say thanks for having me on, man. I was probably one of the biggest lurkers in your channel for the longest time. I love a shaman, right? I've mentioned countless times I'm kind of a shaman at heart, so you are the hardcore embodiment of that, and you love to see it. For me, look, I've just started doing this. You've got all my stuff plastered, twitch.tv/ChicknBasket. If you're not in the hardcore Discord, if you're not there, I'm a mod for the hardcore group, so if you have questions or thoughts, certainly let me know. But what I would say is I appreciate you having me on. It's been nice to talk about things. Sometimes I have a bit of a persona when I'm streaming to have a kind of a crazy, wild atmosphere, right? And it's nice to maybe show a bit more of my personal side and talk about games and just get to relax. And dude, I couldn't believe an hour just went by, hour and 15 minutes. That's crazy. So
right. Yeah, exactly. Let me ask you one thing before you go. Where's the name ChicknBasket come from, other than the fact that there are chicken baskets that exist in the world?
Oh man, so this is going to date me very heavily. But,
all right.
I'm one of the younger. I have several siblings and everything, and Instant Messenger, AOL Instant Messenger. You had to pick a screen name.
Yeah.
My older brother decided he was ChicknBasket some number, and then I became ChicknBasket another number. So 12-year-old me decided upon that name, and whenever you had to start. Having a gamer tag and whatever else, it was just kind of an easy, slightly anonymous, memorable kind of thing.
Yeah.
The only difference is sometime Blizzard changed its naming policy to a limited character, and the poor E in chicken got dropped. So now it's ChicknBasket. But
gotcha.
That's the name origin is old AIM screen name.
So your brother was just hungry one day and made a screen name, and then you copied him.
The funniest thing is, like, my brother doesn't have Facebook, Instagram, social media, Twitter, LinkedIn. The last physical form of social media he had was an AIM screen name.
Nice.
So it's really funny that that's where I took it from. But yeah, I guess he was just hungry one day. I have no idea where he got it. I will do homework. I'm going to call my older brother after we get off
what?
this. I'm going to ask him.
He's not gonna remember. He's like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah, I mean, he's going to have no earthly idea, but I still have to know now for my own. I mean, it is my namesake, right?
Yeah.
It's like figuring out that you're actually, Samoan instead of, Native American.
Hey mom, why'd you name me Daenerys? And you're like, oh, let me tell you all about what a great character that used to be.
Yeah.
Before season 8. All right, man. Thank you so much, everyone. Are you gonna stream now, tonight, anytime?
I told a friend that I would hang out and do some things. I will be back on tomorrow. I'm usually a daytime streamer, right? So something in the neighborhood of 10 a.m. Central Time to 2 or 3 p.m. Central Time. Every now and then we decide to tap into the green tea and wizard oil, and we'll have a late night stream where it's a little bit more chaotic. But that's kind of where we're at. So daytime streams will be on tomorrow and this week. Maybe look out Friday for the possible run, but check out the Hardcore Discord. We try to be pretty communicative in there.
Okay, nice. Awesome, man. Have a good one.
Thanks so much, John. Take care, bud.
Hey, thanks so much for listening. Thanks so much for being here and checking out the podcast. I hope you enjoyed that conversation. I really enjoyed talking with ChicknBasket. He seems like a swell guy. Can't wait to talk with him more. Can't wait to see him in the future, to see where he goes. Have a great one, guys. There's more coming. There's more podcasts coming. Just not on probably not a weekly basis, but in the near future. Expect more podcasts. Expect them soon. And have a great day.